I normally don't take star quarterbacks wanting to be traded seriously, but this Aaron Rodgers thing is gaining steam and it seems like new updates are coming out just about every day. On Wednesday, the report was that Rodgers told free agents that he would not be in Green Bay in 2021, on top of a few other things that surfaced in recent days. Rodgers has been in Green Bay since 2005 and has been the starting quarterback there since the 2008 season. In that time, Rodgers has won multiple MVPs, led the Packers to 7 division titles, and of course winning the Super Bowl back in 2010. Although Tom Brady has been by far the most accomplished quarterback during that time, you can make the argument that Aaron Rodgers has been the most talented quarterback in the league since becoming a starter. Now 37 years old and coming off another MVP season where he had 51 total touchdowns, it seems as if he has reached a breaking point with the Packers organization. A report came out on the first day of the NFL draft that Rodgers does not want to return to the Packers, and rumors have been swirling ever since. There was the news about the Rams reaching out about Rodgers' availability before trading for Matthew Stafford, and most recently teams like the 49ers and Broncos reached out about Rodgers before round 1 of the draft. Obviously nothing has happened yet, but there are a bunch of teams that can severely upgrade a quarterback by acquiring Rodgers, so it's not like a potential deal is dead because we're beyond the draft now. But with all that said, here are 5 reasons I believe Aaron Rodgers should leave the Green Bay Packers. Number 1 is head coaches have been underwhelming. Now I will say that the Packers have a combined 26-6 regular season record since Matt LaFleur has taken over, but his 4th down decision in the NFC Championship this past year was inexcusable. But for the majority of Rodgers' time in Green Bay, he was coached by Mike McCarthy from 2006 to 2018. Rodgers spent over 10.5 seasons with McCarthy as his head coach, and despite him being one of the most overrated coaches of this decade, Rodgers still found a way to bring that team to the playoffs more times than not. Towards the end of their tenure together, Rodgers grew visibly frustrated with McCarthy and apparently would often change his play calls at the line. Between some of McCarthy's crucial play calls and playoff games to Aaron Rodgers not respecting him as a head coach, the two had a rough point after continuously coming up short in the mid-2010s. In a Bleacher Report article, a source close to Rodgers admitted that he would call to vent about McCarthy, saying he didn't know what he was doing and had one of the lowest IQs of a coach he'd ever had. We all know that Rodgers is smarter than most people, but when there is a lack of respect for your coach, that's an issue. So to sum up point number 1, he was dealing with an average coach at best for majority of his time in his career. I'd argue he's even below average, but his record and Super Bowl win give him some leverage in those discussions. Number 2, the Jordan Love pick and not informing him. We all know that when you have an aging quarterback near the end of the road, some teams like to be proactive and try to draft their successor. We've seen it from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones, Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes, and even Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers himself. Now, in just about every case, when a team invests a high pick in a quarterback, it is common courtesy for that team to alert the current quarterback on their roster that they're making that pick. For the Packers, they never told Rodgers what was happening. He actually found out via a text from his agent. As a comparison, the Chicago Bears organization, another NFC North team, had the decency to call up Andy Dalton and let him know they were drafting Justin Fields. Andy Dalton, as a comparison, has not taken a snap as a Chicago Bear and is on a 1-year contract. The Green Bay Packers, who have been Rodgers' team since 2005, couldn't even alert him about who they were trading up for. As Rodgers mentioned in an interview, the team was coming off a 13-3 season, they were 1 win away from the Super Bowl, and thought maybe by adding a few pieces in the draft, they'd find a way to get there. But instead, the Packers went on to have, I don't want to call this the worst draft ever because it has to play itself out, but quite possibly the most lack of self-awareness draft in recent memory in NFL history. Rodgers has mentioned he wanted to play into his 40s, and he was 36 years old at the time and coming off a season over 4,000 yards and a 26-4 touchdown to interception ratio. They even spent their 2nd round pick on a running back, A.J. Dillon, despite having Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams on the roster already. So to be one of the final 4 teams remaining in the league in 2019, feeling like you're very close to a Super Bowl and having the Packers front office start planning for the future did not sit right with Aaron Rodgers. Number 3 is his defense in the playoffs. It's no secret that Aaron Rodgers' defense has let him down in just about every playoff loss since his time in Green Bay. Here's the list of points the Packers defense has given up in Aaron Rodgers' 9 career playoff losses. In 2009, his first one, it was 45 points, really 51, but Rodgers fumbled, to Arizona. In 2011, it was 37 to the New York Giants. In 2012, it was 45 to San Francisco. In 2013, it was the lowest number, 23 to San Francisco. In 2014, it was 28 to Seattle, thank you to Brandon Bostic. In 2015, it was 26 to Arizona in the overtime game. In 2016, it was 44 to Atlanta. In 2019, it was 37 to San Francisco. And in 2020, this past year, it was 31 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if you average all that out, the Packers defense has allowed an average of 35.1 2.1 points per game in playoff losses during Aaron Rodgers' tenure, which is absolutely atrocious. Like, what quarterback is consistently winning with their defense giving up that amount of points? None is basically the answer. Were there times where Rodgers could have been playing better himself? Of course, but winning with that type of support is nearly impossible. And even in the regular season, Rodgers has only had a top 10 defense going off points allowed only 3 times in his 13 years as a starter. I've always personally believed that Rodgers should have way more than one Super Bowl appearance, but seeing this gives you an idea of why that's been the case. Number 4, no first-round wide receivers. It's been well documented that the Packers, especially recently, have ignored giving Aaron Rodgers much help at wide receiver in recent years. Since Jordy Nelson's departure and Randall Cobb slowing down, it's really been Devontae Adams, and that's about it. Now, while Adams is probably a top 3 to 5 receiver in the game, he's just one guy at the end of the day. Rodgers has had to constantly rely on guys like Allen Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown, Jimmy Graham in his 30s, and Geronimo Allison. It was an awful group of secondary receivers, and when you're forced to make that work and neglect that position for numerous years, it just makes your quarterback's job way harder. The Packers haven't drafted a first-round wide receiver since 2002. It's almost like they go out of their way not to help their quarterbacks, whether it was Favre late in his career or Rodgers himself. I'm sure some of you have heard this crazy nugget before, but Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown a touchdown to a first-round receiver until 35-year-old Mercedes Lewis did it during the 2019 season. Even in the NFL draft a week ago, you would think that maybe finally they would make this happen in the first round. There were still some decent names on the board like Elijah Moore, Terrace Marshall Jr., Rondale Moore, or whoever else they wanted, but they waited until round 3 to take Amari Rodgers out of Clemson, who is a nice player, but they again continue not to invest heavily in that wide receiver position. When that small list of teams that Aaron Rodgers preferred to be traded to came out, it's no coincidence that the Denver Broncos and New York Giants, both teams that have heavily invested in wide receivers over the past couple years, were on that list. And number 5, personnel decisions and the Jake Kumerow story. So it's no secret that Aaron Rodgers wants to be more involved in the personnel decisions with the Packers. He's said that before, and the story that came out recently about Aaron Rodgers and a personnel decision was not only bizarre, but kind of funny if I'm being honest. The receiver that got Rodgers the most upset was an undrafted guy out of Wisconsin Whitewater with 21 career receptions named Jake Kumerow. Rodgers went on a Sirius XM show on September 3rd of 2020 and went out of his way to compliment Kumerow, saying he's a guy you love having on the squad, and then days later Kumerow was cut by the Packers. He brought that up once more during the 2020 season when asked about personnel moves in November, and Rodgers' response was he didn't want to weigh in on personnel decisions because last time he did, the teammate he praised ended up in Buffalo. And while players play and GMs manage, there was just too much pettiness with a move like that. It's not like the Packers receiving room was oozing with talent. They really couldn't keep Kumerow to make their franchise quarterback entering his 16th year happy. It just makes no sense to me. And it's not like quarterbacks never have influence on what the team wants to do. It's obvious that when Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown went to Tampa Bay, that was probably mainly influenced by Tom Brady. There was even a report after the 2020 draft that Patrick Mahomes wanted the Chiefs to draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and look what they did. And after the recent Russell Wilson news, I'm sure he's more involved in personnel moves as well, as the Seahawks' first pick in this draft was a wide receiver. So that'll do it for this video. That's my opinion on why Aaron Rodgers should want out of Green Bay by now. Leave in the comments your thoughts. Should he stay? Should he stick it out? Should he actually leave? What do you guys think? Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Leave a thumbs up if you did and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys next time.